Good morning. This is the Blaine's World webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You get more information and listen to previous shows at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week, we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Katherine Van Brocklin, owner and manager at PMO Mountain and Maine Property Management, for being my guest today. And welcome aboard, Katherine.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay, well, it's my pleasure. Also, you can wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. So
Yay.
this is Katherine. And I have to say, I'm very impressed. You're in outer space there, or where are you?
It's either that or you can see my plants that are dying behind me. I don't think that's a good look. Okay.
Okay,
Uh,
but anyway, love the backdrop. Katherine Van Brocklin is a native of Miami, spending most of her life in Florida. She worked for Disney and in property management and banking for 20 years plus years. So also, you started what, when you were 8 or 9, wasn't it?
exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
youngest property management person I've ever met. She and her husband moved to Asheville 13 years ago on a whim, surprising her husband with a trip to the Blue Ridge Mountains for his birthday. They both fell in love with the area. Working again in property management is a dream come true in such a beautiful area with an office on Wall Street and enjoying the life where she lives in Weeville. And so the first question I always ask Katherine, somebody I speak to the first time, you grew up in Florida area.
Hmm?
As a little girl in Florida, did you always know you wanted to be in property management? Was
No,
no?
no,
What
no.
what what did you want to be?
I wanted to be a newspaper reporter because you're always out there involved, right? In
That
the
was me
community.
too. I started out want to be a
Was,
newspaper reporter,
was that
right?
you as well? That was your
Yeah,
dream?
I did. Yeah. So what happened?
Well, what I realized is number one, it's a lot of odd hours. It was very strange and it wasn't as glamorous as I imagined. It didn't pay very well. And I could see at the young age of 10 and 11 that eventually it was going to be replaced. Now, we didn't have the internet then, clearly, but down the road, I could see that that would not be a career for me. So
Were you ever in journalism?
I actually went to school in college and studied journalism. And my claim to fame, yay, is I actually had a book published when I was in sixth grade that is in the Library of Congress.
Very
But
cool.
yeah, I mean, it was a very simple book, right? But I love to write. I
What was the
really
book?
love to write. It was Jane and Judy Go to the Zoo.
I
So,
love it.
yeah,
Wow.
it was really, really cool. So I've always loved to write. I still love to write, but more just for fun, not, for
Well,
publication.
it's funny you said that because I guess you realized it earlier than I did, but I
How
didn't
old were
think,
you?
well, what?
How old were you?
When I was, in college and journalism major, but I never saw it as being a dying career. But again, you're a little, I'm a little past you. So it's just, no, but it peaked, because now it's a very tough field to be
Yes.
into,
Yeah.
changed completely. So you graduated as a journalism major?
I didn't finish. I had to
Oh,
go back later and do it, and I had changed my major. So it didn't matter at that point. But I like business. What I actually realized is it wasn't for me for a variety of reasons, but I could fulfill that passion by writing for myself, right? Journaling and doing other things. I used to lead workshops. I used to work with the SBA and help people write business plans. So you could fulfill that need to create and write in a variety of ways.
and I
So
guess anything you do professionally, you're involved in writing in some
absolutely.
letters or correspondence, whatever. But what got you then? So you were doing when you worked for Disney, for example, and eventually went to banking. What were you doing then?
At Disney?
Yeah,
Well, when I started at Disney, I actually worked on Main Street, if you remember.
sure.
Uh, I worked in some of the shops and I was Alice in Wonderland in the parade.
Were
That's
you
right.
really?
I really was. And it was really a great experience. The amount of people that you meet from all walks of life, right? It was just so interesting. And the one question we got all the time was, do you have to have a college degree or master's to work here? And I would say, no, you don't need a college degree or a master's to work at Disney. But it was just a great experience. And one of the unique things about working at Disney at that time, that was many years ago, was it really set you up for life in your profession. And what I mean by that is I went through the Disney Leadership Institute as
Sure, I
well.
know it.
And what they do and the way that they taught us to behave with clients and to deliver a wow experience to everyone, no matter who they were, what they wanted, they thought they were going to get. What you were to deliver is something that would surprise and delight them. And I will tell you, that has followed me professionally throughout my entire career. And so it doesn't matter what industry you're in, you always should be creating a wow experience for your clients.
And it's a great point because, like you said, whatever you do, we should all be involved in that. Not just in terms of work, but relationships. The same thing too. I read your intro there. That was maybe a self-serving vacation you had your husband take, but but that's a wow vacation. To Blue Ridge, the mountains, and then see where it wound up. So you were with Disney how many years?
Just over three. Just
Okay.
over three.
And just, mentioning it, it's exciting to people. You worked at Disney. So you left Disney to then go into banking?
No, that's when I come from a lineage of property managers, right? It's in my blood, and I became passionate about it. Listen, there is nothing more important than helping people put a roof over their head that they can afford. They have a safe environment, right? They can raise their families. I don't know, just enjoy life. But everybody needs shelter. Food and shelter are the
Right.
two things everyone needs. And I'm a terrible cook. I mean, absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. So I had to have another passion in helping people with what I could do, right? So coming from a family with a lot of property management, I fell in love with it. But what happened is I found in a fairly short amount of time that I was raising two kids. And if you do it right, honestly, it's a 7 day a week operation, right? Things come up, you have to be there for your clients, and you just can't do that. It's not conducive to raising a family. So that's when I went into banking. So I worked for a number of years in banking, leading small business teams and in other professional roles in the whole South Florida area. I primarily worked in Palm Beach County and Broward County, and then some in Dade County as well. So
And so I met you, I guess, through a mutual friend of ours, and we'll give her a shout out. Can we mention her name?
Madeline Levine,
If
how are
you're
you, Madeline?
if you're watching, Madeline, or we'll send you a copy of this tape. But you worked with her through banking, right? Through
Correct.
what bank was that?
Citibank.
And
It
were
was
you both in New York at the time?
no, I actually was in South
Oh,
Florida.
you still were.
I was in South Florida. I was leading teams, doing what I needed to do. And I have to say, that's my second passion. Number one is helping people find a home. Number two is working with small business owners. There is nothing more rewarding than seeing someone with a germ of an idea, right? And you start the journey with them, and 5 years later, they're this thriving business, and they're so proud of what they've accomplished. I mean, it warms your heart. The stories I could tell you.
So what was your role with Citibank?
Well, I started in South Florida, and
Right.
Madeline was in New York, right? And she was doing marketing, and I was doing sales. So I had teams in Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, and I was meeting clients with them, helping them strategize, solve problems, etc. Very, very professional environment. Citibank was very good to me, very good to me. So then what happened is when I brought my husband to Asheville for a surprise birthday party, we fell in love. We just absolutely fell in love. I mean, anyone that lives here knows, right? There's something so special and magical about this area. And coming from a beach environment my whole life, this was completely outside the norm.
Right.
And we fell in love. And the soul of Asheville is I just find it amazing. So I actually moved into a different role within small business. I led risk and controls, and it was a remote job. So that allowed me to move to Asheville and bring my work with me. So very grateful for Citi. They were always good to me.
It was cool. So you were with Citibank for a bunch of years, but in that remote position, you were working remotely.
Hmm.
And it's funny because it sounds like you were working remotely even before it became a popular thing.
I was.
Like, right? Because you were
Mhm.
starting with them before COVID, I guess.
Yes. Oh, yes. It's been a while. Yes.
Okay.
And you're absolutely correct. Make a very good point. It was before it was trendy, and Citi was very forward thinking
Right,
because it's a global bank, right? They're
right.
used to people working in all locations, very forward thinking. And my boss was amazing, and no one had a problem with it. I actually worked harder remotely because it's hard to draw the line between your personal life and your business life, and during COVID, I'm really proud of the work that we did during COVID, not just Citi, but all the banks to deliver the PPP money to business owners who needed it. I mean, we went 2 and 3 months without a day off. We were having conference calls at midnight, or at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night. I mean, really the banking industry stepped up. So I'm very proud of my colleagues at all the banks. Yeah.
It's interesting though, and we'll talk about your business now in just a
Yeah,
second.
sure.
But I guess that's almost any business though. If you want to be successful, it has to be a 24/7 job. You can say 9 to 5 all you want, but
Mhm.
if you want to get ahead or, make progress, you're gonna have to put time when it's needed, I guess. That's the key.
Exactly.
When your client needs you. So you were doing that for a bunch of years with Citibank. By the way, since you mentioned it, give a shout out. So we'll send her a copy of the tape. Who you mentioned your boss, that person's name?
Catherine Chase.
Okay, so
Catherine Chase. Excellent.
Catherine, we're talking
Excellent
about
leader.
you in a positive way, Catherine. Make sure you um, send her a copy of this clip. So you became famous on Blaine's World. And so, what then gave you the idea that at some point in time you wanted to leave Citibank and start your own business?
Well, it was just a lot of circumstances came together at the same time. But what I thought was Citi was doing some reductions in staff, right? There was redundancies in what other teams were doing with what we were doing. It's across the world, basically, at Citi. And I knew if my team was disbanded, I could find another leadership role, right, within Citi. I mean, there was a lot of opportunity, but I thought this is my chance to go back to what my first dream was, right, to start a property management company on my own. And I also always wanted to be a small business owner for myself after all those years of helping other small business clients, right? So to marry my dream of being a property manager and owning my own firm and being a small business owner, it was a perfect time. So what?
No, what's so cool though is I think you're maybe only the second person I ever met who told me their dream was to be in property management. Um, that's really kind of neat that you had that dream. So you were in this area. What then gave you the impetus to actually start this business?
Well, so what was happening is Citi was going through these redundancies, right? And I thought to myself, I need to be prepared because this is my chance, right? This is my opportunity to fulfill my dream. So I started interviewing some property management franchises. And the reason I did that, so I could use economies of scale, right? And leverage other people's abilities. The franchise that I actually chose after 6 months of research and talking to them was PMI, Property Management Inc. And the reason I did is their values align with who I am. They believe in providing the best, safest place that we can put a client in, right? They have such cutting edge tools, reporting, analyses for our owners and for us, right, as franchise owners. And the support is amazing. And I said to myself, if you're going to go back into this industry after, some years out of it, I had to get licensed as a real estate, agent. I also did extra training to be a qualifying broker so I can, be the qualifying broker for my own firm. And I thought I really want to be with a brand that has the legal support, right? The operational support, all of that to help, make sure that we're delivering a wow experience to our clients, right? So we bought the franchise beginning of last year, beginning of this year, and first quarter, and it's been nothing but fabulous growth. I actually brought on a real estate agent slash broker who has 25 plus years experience, right? And we've got an office on Wall Street, and we're very careful with our clients. We want clients that have the same standards and have the same goals, right, for their properties as we would want our tenants to be in. So it's been great.
And what's very impressive, I'm looking at your website as we speak, is the fact what you just said is that you can then offer a wide range of services that I guess people can enter into property management. And they do by themselves.
Mhm.
You could, but boy, that's a lot of stuff you have to do. And by yourself, it'd be tough. So I guess most people go the route you do. They start their own franchise or,
Um, PMI actually has almost 500 franchises throughout the country, and they're really great, and they only allow a certain number in any particular area. And so, to your point, anybody can do it, and you can be successful, starting doing it yourself. But it's more work, and why reinvent the wheel when they've already got the software, the systems, and they're cutting edge. And so, why do that if if you don't have to,
yeah. And not only
right?
that, by yourself, there's a lot of services you'd be offering or try to offer.
Exactly.
And I mean, it's like overwhelming. And so let's talk a little bit about that point then. So if somebody works with PMI or works with Katherine Van Brocklin specifically, what are the kind of services that proper management property manager does? What do you do for people?
We do everything. We run the gamut from finding them a tenant, right? We help them get their property ready for leasing so that it's safe and there's no liability issues there that put our owners at risk. We manage it. We do all of the maintenance. We do evictions. I mean, soup to nuts. And what we're finding is there's more and more people that are, getting up in years and they have, 5, 10, 15 properties and they just don't want to do it anymore because like we talked about earlier, it can be a 24/7 operation. Not always, not every day, but it can be. And, people have been doing it for a long time and they get tired. So it's perfect. You just need to make sure you find a property management company that has the same values you do and you feel you can trust your property manager. That's what it really comes down to.
And let's talk about that, Catherine. And if somebody's listening and wants to find a property manager, you give them a couple of points what they can look for. But what are the specific things that somebody should seek out when they hire a property manager?
Well, sometimes, and I hate to use this phrase, but it's the spidey sense. We all have it. And sometimes there's a good relationship and you just bond right away and there's that trust factor, right? You feel good about those folks. The other thing you can do is look at their websites and see what are they offering? Look at the quality of the services. Look at, does that match to what you're looking for? Because every property owner has a different goal. Right? There's some companies that have hundreds and hundreds of doors. Well, that may be great for you. That may not be great for you as a property owner, right? Some people like high touch and they want someone who's smaller and, will be more of a boutique, if you will, but offer a wide gamut of services, right? And then some people just they'll interview probably 2 or 3 property managers and they go with the person that their gut tells them is the right one for their goals and dreams for their property. So it's not an exact science, but I always tell everyone you should talk to at least 2 property managers before you select one. 3 is good, but more than that, it becomes very confusing. Ask people right? Who's managing your property? Call around, shop some people on their website.
Explain the concept then for people who may not be familiar with it. So you own, well, let's talk about how small or how large this is.
Mhm.
You do property management for what's the range of size of people you do it for?
You mean the number of properties they own?
Or yeah,
Yeah.
in terms of buildings, apartments, whatnot.
That's a great question. Thank you. I don't do short-term rentals, which, as you know, until the
Right.
storm, yes, that's a big business here. It's lucrative and it's great for vacationers, brings dollars to the area. I'm a proponent of well-managed short-term rentals, right? But I don't do that because my focus is on long-term rentals, typically 1 year or greater for residential, or we'll go down to like 6 months. Like right now, because of the storm, we've got owners that are willing to bend and we're doing 4 months up to a year. And I also do small commercial properties. And what I mean by that is I don't do class A or class B office buildings with all the amenities, right? These massive buildings. It's mostly mom and pop owned little strip centers or a little office complex, things like that. So I'm very focused on what I'm good at and what I know I can deliver value to my clients.
So in terms of the property, the residential properties, can somebody work with you if they just have one property or they have to, like,
Absolutely.
does it go from one to what's the largest it goes to?
Well, right now, I wouldn't accept one owner with more than 25 properties.
Okay.
Right. So it could be one. A lot of folks in our portfolio have one property and they run the price point from maybe $1,000 a month rent up to $5,000 a month in rent. So everyone is welcome if, they feel like we're a good fit for them. But I like to tailor our offering to each client's situation and their goals. And what I mean by that is some people want full property management services. Some people say, just find me a tenant. Some people say, I have a tenant. I don't want to handle the maintenance anymore. You just do the maintenance. It runs the gamut. So we've got something for everyone. And I try to tailor every time we get together with the client, their program for their needs.
It's interesting as you talk about it because one of the reasons I never got into real estate, never wanted to, because I didn't want to have to do all this stuff.
Exactly.
I just want to sit back. But that's kind of where they hire you or hire your firm because you take it from soup to nuts. In other words, I guess depending on service, and that's predicated on how much I pay for the service. The more stuff you do, the higher percentage you get out of the rent. Is that it?
Sometimes and sometimes not. One of the things that we do is I'm pretty simplistic. I don't have onboarding fees. I don't have setup administrative
Right.
fees. None of that for the owners, right? It's a simple 50% of the first month's rent to find you a tenant. End of story. That again, that includes everything from inspecting the property, helping you determine what repairs need to be done, all the way through the tenant moving in and handing them the keys and everything in between, all of the marketing, everything. Okay, the screening. One of the things to remember is when you select a property management company, you want to make sure they do thorough screening. A lot do. A lot do. We do 5 screenings. So we screen for credit, income verification, criminal background. We screen with their last landlord, or sometimes their mortgage company. A lot of people now are homeowners, but they're needing to rent until their home is repaired. So we validate and verify that they've been paying their mortgage. And then we also do an eviction check. So there's not much else you can conceivably do. The other thing we do to protect our owners is we require that every tenant maintain a renter's liability policy, which not every
Right.
company does, right? It's like $14.95 a month. It's not costly, but it protects the property before the owner has to file a claim on their insurance or put out money out of pocket.
You ever work with some people want you to do property management and you kind of know it's not going to be easy to rent, or do you sometimes have to say to a
Absolutely.
person, do you turn down some clients because you know they can rent them?
It's not necessarily that we couldn't rent the property. It's more so their attitude. They're well, I mean, not everybody has to love us, right? And we don't have to love everyone else. It's a business transaction. However, where I draw the line is someone who has properties that are in complete disrepair, right? And it's not somewhere you or I would live. Okay. And they're just completely run down and terrible. We have said no to some folks because they're not willing to invest a dollar into the property to make it livable, for the tenant. And everyone deserves a safe home.
And so you'll actually tell them that, what they need to do to get it up to par. And I guess some people don't do that or aren't willing to do that.
Correct. Well, we have to be careful. We walk a fine line, right? Our main goal, our fiduciary responsibility is to our owner. So we want to maximize the revenues, protect their property, get them a quality tenant, right? That's our goal. But we do a very thorough walkthrough when someone comes on board, and we walk the property to look for liabilities, things that really could come back to bite them, unfortunately, if they don't take care of it. And things that are cosmetic, we put them in buckets, right? You've got liability issues, cosmetic issues, and things that are not working that need to be fixed. And then the owner ultimately decides, it's their property. We want to do as much as we can with as little money as we can, because the goal is just not to upcharge them to have them go out and have it repainted and maintenance done. But if things are broken or in disrepair, then they need to do that. So
You and I were talking a little bit off the air about changing industries, not only newspaper industry, but your industry as well. Because I'm thinking out loud that I guess 10 years ago, you just run newspaper ads like crazy. You want to find, I guess, so they come to you, they have a property, you help them
mhm.
get clients, you help them get renters. But again, there's virtually no newspapers anymore, so
No.
I guess you've had to change too in terms of how you get the word out.
Absolutely. Now, there's all the major sites that we use, right? Like rent.com, Zillow is a big one. We have 13 sites that we market the property on, but I'll tell you what we also do is we use local Facebook pages as well. I have a lot of success sometimes. I put them in 13 to 14 Facebook pages, depending upon the area of the property. And we've gotten some really good renters that way as well, because you make a good point. We used to just list them all in the paper, right? And you can't do that
Right.
anymore.
Well, I'll give
So,
you one other too. You probably use it or know of it. Are you familiar with Nextdoor?
yeah.
Because I would imagine that's a very good place to also, and you can advertise with them too. Because a lot of people, I don't know if you do it, but a lot of people read Nextdoor and they seem to get the word out.
We do. And sometimes I'll put them on Craigslist. That's
Okay.
a little bit tougher, especially if it's a higher end property, right? That's not exactly the price point. Somebody would be shopping for a $1,500 a month property, on Craigslist, but it's possible. But yeah, you're right. We've had to use different other social avenues to get the word out in the community. And, it works.
And the best thing of all, now you're going to be on Blaine's World, so this will change your whole business model around. And nice thing, Catherine, you don't have to advertise with me. It's just something I do as a service, so it won't
I think
cost you
it's
anything.
amazing though, the reach that you have in the community, right? The number of people that are on your Facebook pages, listen to watch your blogs and listen to your blogs. It is amazing what you're doing. I guess you're never retiring, right?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, I used to say when I used to be a college teacher, and I used to say afterward, I didn't retire, I rewired. So for a while, my job title was rewirement expert in training.
There you go.
Because when we grow up, I never knew what I wanted to do, so I'm doing it now. So back to you then. So talk about also Catherine, what else you do in terms of getting the word out, or what else you do in terms of the community by spreading the word out about your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think like many people in Asheville, I like to give back. It's just, you're inspired living here. You're just inspired to give back. So there's a number of organizations I try to volunteer with, like the Community Kitchen, I have to say is amazing, right? There's several food organizations that I like to work with when I have a chance because we're a fairly new business, right? A year old. I don't have as much volunteer opportunities as I did before. I'm also part of Rotary, and Rotary is a huge service organization, and there's always opportunity. Done a lot of volunteering, unfortunately, since the storm hit, locally out here in Barnardsville and in Weaverville and in parts of Asheville. We did wellness checks for the deeds office right after the storm, driving house to house to see if people were okay. And then, helping with the food banks and distribution centers. So I always try and be out there doing something, and working with Beloved and all of the teams. There's so many good organizations in Asheville. I mean, it's just hard to pick one. The only
Well,
commercial I have to say right now, Moment of Hope, like everybody else, is collecting Christmas presents for children. And I'm actually adopting families out on Spruce Pine, but there's opportunity, all over Asheville. So
and you mentioned who's that for?
Moments of Hope.
Yeah.
I can send you the information, but there's so many other groups that are doing it as well. But I'm just encouraging everyone to reach out and help bring a little joy this holiday season.
And since you mentioned it, talk about the hurricane then in terms of how it impacted your business. So were you out of the office for a week or two, or how did it impact you?
Yes, because my office is on Wall Street downtown. We were fortunate. Power and internet came right back up. So we were able to not miss a beat, and we were able to go out and help our clients. Fortunately, our owners didn't have a lot of damage to their properties. We were very, very lucky. We had some in Black Mountain that had a little bit more of an issue, but it was the water situation that, everybody had to deal with. So little by little, everyone's been coming back online, right? And things are getting more back to normal, for lack of a better word. But what I'm most proud of is the folks around here, including my property management friends and contacts from other companies. Everybody's kind of bandied about to try and share leads and opportunities and find housing. So if someone reaches out to me and I don't have anything in my inventory, I can call 10 other property managers and send an email and say, hey, what have you have? Here's the price point, right? Here's what they need. So it's been really helpful to do that. I'm just getting a little worried because there are people still living in tents, right? And winter is coming. So we're trying to be as responsive as an industry as we can.
So you had to deal with that. Talk about moving in the future. What do you see, specifically your firm? Where do you see yourself going down the road?
At some point, I would like to expand once we've got the residential and the small commercial space where I want it to be. I want to expand into homeowners associations. What I'm seeing is there are some firms out there that are great property management companies, handling HOAs, but there's others more that are not handling it great. So I believe there's an opportunity to bring that wow experience to folks that live in HOAs and to deliver what they're looking for. So that's
And
my
it's
next step.
funny you said that because all my life I lived in HOAs, and I was on the board of an HOA for a long time. And that your point is so on target about you have the experience, and it should be a wow experience, but it's not always,
No,
and it's
no,
a shame. And specifically, I think there's a market for you there, especially even some of the smaller units. It doesn't have to be a 700 piece unit, but to help somebody with a 20 units or 50 units or whatever. a lot of them are in Asheville area too, you know.
Yep.
So
Exactly, exactly. That is a personal goal. It's a challenge. It's not a cakewalk because on the board you could have anywhere from 4 to 10 different personalities. You've been part of the board. There's infighting sometimes. Everybody's got an opinion. But one of my greatest gifts, I can't cook. There's a lot. I can't paint. I can't draw. I can't sing. But one of my greatest gifts is I'm a problem solver. I can put people in a room that have absolutely nothing in common, and we will walk out of there with everyone getting something. So that's my gift, and that's why I really want to work with HOAs because my husband was on the board, like you said, of our HOA for years, and I used to love to go in there and just work with everyone. So it's fun. It's
it's fun.
fun,
It can
like
also it's also it can be a thankless task. You know,
it can
it's
be.
especially you said husband was on the board.
Oh yeah,
I remember those days, and yeah, so we went through two management firms, and there where I lived, Biltmore Lake, they just started now a third one. So there is turnover in there. So down the road, I can see yourself doing this. A couple other things before I let you go.
sure.
In terms of working with PMI or specifically your firm, um, what are some other services you can do for folks? We talked about handling the rental properties. Talk a little bit about some other stuff you do.
We do so many things. We have a program called Home Watch. So if somebody
Okay,
doesn't have a rental property, but they have a true second home, we know the relationship between Florida and North Carolina is a two-way street, right? It's very strong. So someone may have a vacation property, they don't rent it out, but they want someone to go once a month, right? And check their property. They want the pipes wrapped, or if something needs to be done, winter's coming, right? It freezes. So we do that. The other thing I do, which we don't promote often, but I have a lot of experience doing this from my personal life as well, is project management. I just completed a project for someone who purchased a home here in Asheville and was moving from Texas and wanted someone to manage all of the painting, right? Redoing everything, the appliances, on and on and on. And I've spent the last 3 months managing that project for her. And she just moved in this week and she's thrilled. So there's a lot of things we can do. I would ask anyone who has any questions about any type of property service other than buying or selling. I am licensed and can do that, but I do not do it. I actually refer that out to some great realtors in the area. Annie Lewis, David Rathy, they go on and on and on. But anyway, anything that's not a buying or selling of a property, give me a call. It's probably something that we can handle.
okay, that's a perfect segue to the question I was going to ask you. So there are two ways to get in touch with you. Mention, if you would, please, the website.
Certainly. It's PMI Mountain and Maine, MAIN.
Okay, and that's .com.
Yes. And that
Okay,
has a plethora of things that we do and how we operate in our vision and everything about us.
okay. And then if they want to contact you personally, what's the best bet?
Absolutely. My email is Katherine, it's KATHERINE at PMI Mountain and spelled out AND Maine MAIN.com.
Okay,
Katherine at PMI Mountain and Maine.com.
okay, great. I'll give you one last chance. If folks want to reach you by phone, they can call you.
You know what? They can call the office, which is on our website, but I have
Okay,
right now because there's so much action out there. Our team is on the road all day long. I will also give you my cell. It's 954-270-0487. And that's probably the best way because, like I said, we're all out and about.
okay. Anyway, I'd like to thank you, Katherine Van Brocklin, for being my guest on the Blaine's World webcast. I also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. Hopefully, one of these years, we'll even get to meet in person.
Hope so, Blaine. Thank you for having me.
Okay, it was a pleasure. Be well.
You too.